This is a Giga Shan in the making, boys. This is a Giga Shan in the making. Look at that. Sherwood would have been toast. Yeah, look at that. He's like, yo, give me some recognition. You were dead. Bro, run. You moron! What? You were blessed by the mage!
It's easy to miss the entrance to Dulata Cave while driving down a small road in rural Bulgaria. But this unassuming hole in the ground opens into the longest cave in the country. One day, a group of 4 professional splunkers and 3 kids ventured into the cold, dark depths. The trip turned into a nightmare, trapped below ground. What followed was the largest rescue in Bulgaria's history. This is the story of the Dulata Cave Rescue. Bulgaria is a small, lesser-known country on the western border of the Black Sea. On the opposite side of the country, the Vitosha mountain towers over the Bulgarian plains, with its highest point reaching an elevation of over 7,500 feet high. Vitosha is a great spot for winter sports like skiing, and hikers come here to marvel at the area's many wonders like the golden stone bridges, the icy Black Peak, and the mountain's tiered waterfalls. The mountain formed when faults in the planet's crust bent into one another, forcing huge sections of rock into the sky without disrupting the internal structure of the plates. Over time, glaciers carved a path through the nearby valleys, creating a vast network of tunnels that bore into the mighty stone of the mountain. Dulata is named for the sound of wind blowing through the entrance in the wintertime, and it's the longest cave in Bulgaria with a total length pushing past 11 miles underground. Dulata also snakes down 174 feet below ground. Formed by the Struma River, Dulata is a complex labyrinth extending across 6 different levels, with all the classic hallmarks of a world-class cave, including lakes and unique speleothems like the whale, the stonehead, the Synthrovo basement, and the underground lake of Ayazmoto. Dulata is also home to a variety of 22 different animal species like translucent snails, scorpions, worms, and 6 different species of cave bats. Cavers of almost any skill level can tackle Dulata, but you'll need to prove you've gone caving before to gain entry. There are easy passages that only take a few hours to explore, and there are more technical routes for experts. The longest route goes all the way from the first entrance ever found to the newest entrance. This route can take roughly 10 hours to complete, even for highly skilled, fast-moving cavers. In 2010, a team of 4 adult cavers gathered together to explore Dulata. Together, they had over 20 years of experience exploring caves and documenting their findings. The team also brought 3 less experienced cavers with them to show them the ropes. The 3 kids ranged from 11 to 14 years old. The kids had practiced climbing, and they wanted to challenge themselves by climbing the vertical sections of Dulata's cold stone maze. The team showed the mayor of Bosnek their credentials and received the key to open the cave's large metal gate. They began their journey around 8 p.m. at night. The entrance to Dulata is a pothole that descends down right at ground level. The cave is situated directly off the side of a road, and for the uninitiated, it's easy to mistake Dulata as a storm or drainage gate. The experienced cavers guided the kids through the entrance to Dulata. This portion can be one of the most challenging parts of the trip for adults. This section is a narrow crawl that extends into some slanted portions that descend further underground. Some tours will tackle this section without ropes, which can be fine for areas with boulders, but portions with smooth stone can easily become slippery and difficult to manage. This portion continued until the cavers reached the first of 6 rivers intersecting the cave at this first level. Nearby resides a pathway that visitors often explore during cave tours. Across a narrow cliff high above a drop, the pathway leads to gorgeous rooms with unique formations. As they explored, bats flew overhead.
This offer is for a free $57 tactical backpack. You only need to pay for shipping. There are no hidden charges.
Known nowadays as the carrier of the virus that wreaked havoc on humans in late 2019, bats are also the most common carrier of rabies in several countries around the world. Their thin teeth can make it hard for some people to even feel their bite. Exposed individuals may think the bat simply brushed against them or got too close with their spiked claws. Bites are even harder to notice with thick caving gear on. They took cover and waited for the creatures to pass by. The group ducked through more narrow crawlways pathways and shuffled through thin gaps along the walls. They ventured deeper. As they passed more underground rivers, the adults began to notice the rivers were getting faster. Their flows spilled over their natural stream that had been carved into the rock over the centuries. They noted this down and kept exploring. Eventually, the waters were so forceful and vast that they couldn't safely pass through. Above ground, the unique geography of the mountain valley created a sudden storm that dumped huge amounts of rain. Prior to their entry, the night sky had shrouded the horizons in the coming storm. The cavers had no idea this dangerous flood was coming. The rivers and pathways that fed into Dulata were overflowing from the sudden deluge, and below ground the team noticed that water levels were rising. As the storm raged on, the mayor realized the team was in dire straits and called for help. Emergency personnel contacted Bulgaria's civil defense teams and the Cave Rescue Bulgaria team, which has around 65 cavers and 5 medical staff. Once rescuers arrived, they were split into teams. The first team included a commander to oversee the operations from an above-ground camp. In the UK and other parts of Europe, these leaders are dubbed wardens or controllers, while in the US, these rescuers are called incident commanders. Wardens are assigned after emergency response has been reached, and they cooperate with police for the rest of the rescue. Once the warden arrives at the site, they will find the person who called for the rescue party to gather more details. The warden of the Dulata cave rescue was Atanas Russe. He quickly formed a search team to begin locating the trapped cavers. They faced hardships almost immediately. Since Dulata's entrance was at ground level and directly open to the sky, water was pouring into the entrance. Instead of lubricating the crawl space, making it easier to enter, the water dragged mud into the crevice, making it harder to pass through. Water levels pouring from the entrance made it difficult to breathe as teams pushed through. To aid the first team of rescuers, support staff used water pumps to limit the amount of water flowing into the cave. The shouts of workers rose above the rain as the pump's machinery hummed in the ears of the rescuers, making communication difficult, if not impossible. A communications team was already being developed. They would use a combination of tactics to ensure the underground teams could communicate with the surface, including hand signals between the cavers, handheld radios, and military field phones. Military field phones are often used for rescues. They're durable, easy to use, and easy to acquire. To use field phones, communications team members would bring spools of wire with them into the cave along with a field phone. This wire reached up to the communications control center at the rescue camp, and the switch box above ground could even connect to civilian phone lines and override their connections, giving them direct and uninterrupted access to emergency communications networks. Wireless devices, like cell phones, don't work well in these wilderness environments. Mountain trails, like those near the cave, don't get good reception. At best, they might get 3G speeds on a good day.
What's on your mind?
Usually they get slower speeds if they get any reception at all. The mountains along either side of the valley could block reception from reaching the camp, and the storm also created interference. After learning the trap team had 4 expert cavers, rescuers felt confident that the team would be safe. Rescuers bet that the cavers would know to immediately seek higher ground to avoid the rising waters. They still worked quickly, but their misplaced confidence could easily backfire. They had no way of knowing the situation below ground. On the way down, the team could have passed dozens of subterranean rivers, and if any one of them was too strong, they'd be trapped, sandwiched with certain death on either side.
Walden University is all about change. It's time.
Wolverine has been around for over a century because we give those who do one thing: confidence.
Rescuers would search for the team along major routes inside the cave, including the beginner tour route along the cliff near the entrance. They would also look for bypasses to go around flooded areas to reach the cavers without risking their lives by traversing through raging rivers. If they found a good bypass, they could save hours of precious time.
Hello everybody, my name is Stratnos, and in today's video we have 10.1 PTR development notes. There are dungeon changes, which will be in the later half of this video, and there are general class changes, which I'm going to lead with for this one, but there should be chapters below if I've done my job and found the timestamp appropriately. So, here are the updates to this week's Embers of Neltharion PTR. We've decided to increase both player stamina and enemy damage by 25% in Embers of Neltharion. This is very much like an adjustment that was made just before the launch of Dragonflight. That was, I think, a 40% of the same numbers. And it's for the same reasons. When damage mitigation abilities and healing are too strong relative to player health, the only way to threaten players is to make enemy damage very high and spiky. If healers can quickly top off their teammates and mana isn't a limiting factor, enemies have to be tuned to have the capacity to do burst damage that kills players before healers can react. And that is kind of the direction we were already moving, even though they'd already made this change because of just how powerful the tank and healer and DPS survivability kits even all were, created largely with the talent system. So this is a very satisfying gameplay. Increasing player health gives players more times to react to incoming damage, and it makes players' choices about cooldowns and mana management more meaningful. Mana also something they've been working on balancing between the different healers as well, so it's something that a little bit less worrying than it would have been had they not done that. Along with this change, you'll see several adjustments to hybrid healing spells, items, and enchantments, as well as percentage-based healing spells, because that's an important thing about this, right? When you make a change like this by default, it's going to be stuff like Death Strike that benefits the most, right? Because Death Strike is a percent healing thing, and so those are the sorts of things where they need to look through and see if those need specific adjustments. Anyways, so player stamina increased by 25%. Enemy spell and melee damage increased by 25%. Self-healing and absorb shield spells for damage dealers and tanks have been increased by a commensurate amount so that they retain their impact when solo or when supporting a group. So presumably this means flat healing effects are also getting increased, although they say a commensurate amount. Now, I of course know what this word is. I'm sure you guys do as well, but just in case, it means corresponding in size and degree or proportion. So Does that mean 25%, or does that just mean by some amount? Portion? Maybe if it's like, if it was a 10% self-heal, you know, it's getting 25% more. I guess that would still be a 25% increase. So I don't know. Yeah, I assume this means roughly 25%. We'll see on the PTR itself. So, okay, it looks like, I guess we're seeing that, yeah, healing of these flat effects is being increased by 25% generally, and Leech from Voracious increased to 12 from 10, which again, you know, that's 20% more, right? Frost 2-set and 4-set are being nerfed. Frost was doing quite a lot of damage, actually on live already. On PTR it was doing okay, although it didn't seem to be particularly... It seemed like it would be tough to play an immobile melee DPS like DPS DK on a lot of the fights. But they are getting nerfed here. I don't know enough about the theory to see if this is justified or not. They've also nerfed the 4-set of Unholy DK. Havoc DH is now actually getting a fodder to the flame. So because this is percent healing, you see they're actually nerfing the percent of healing that it does. So it's not even going to stay the same percent of your health, right? It's going to be less of a percent of your health, the same flat health, but you have much more health now, right? As they've done this stamina bump. But note that they didn't do this for Deathstrike, right? For Blood Decay, so I expect that is great news for DK players, that, you know, their max HP based scaling, or I guess their incoming damage taken based scaling is not getting nerfed at all here. Vengeance, Fell Dev healing increased by 25%. Yeah, again, so these are all just 25% increases in all of the Vengeance healing. And note that they are not doing this fodder to the flame nerf for Vengeance, it looks like, either. Alright, Balance, actually they're buffing by a little bit more, the Regrowth and Swift Mend, so they want those to be a little bit better relatively, and same with Feral, except in PvP combat, and the other stuff by 25%. They are also buffing some Feral DPS by a little bit. They're changing the 2-set as well. Okay. And then they're nerfing Thrashing Claws, and they're buffing Dreadful Bleeding, and nerfing Tear Open Wounds, which is one of the AoE talents. Okay, so I assume this is mostly a wash for Feral, but I'm not 100% sure. The Feral scientists will have to take a look. It just seems kind of like they're moving around where the damage is. I don't expect that'll be huge percents either way, because they're all such small changes. Guardian. Guardian is getting also the off-healing increase here, and then the healing of their other stuff is being increased as well to kind of compensate for the larger health pool and the larger incoming damage. And I guess Frenzied Regen is also kind of a winner in the way that this all works out. Devastation, Feed the Flames has been buffed, Snapfire's been massively buffed, Shattering Star's been nerfed, Scintillations, Eternity Surge Power. Oh, that's the free Eternity Surges when you're channeling Disintegrate. Okay, they've nerfed that a little bit, fair enough. And then they're buffing all the healing, but again, 25% on these healing things, so that's all the change we already know about. Hunter, they're actually nerfing Rejuvenating Wind percent health. So again, it looks like their kind of general tack is what we've seen so far. Tank's percent health based healing is staying the same. Tank's flat healing and DPS's flat healing are getting buffed by 25%. And then DPS players' percent health healing is getting nerfed such that it's the same flat amount but a smaller percentage of their health bar. We saw this with the Havoc fodder to the flame change, and now we're seeing it here for Hunter with Rejuvenating Wind as well, which means that relative to your health bar, you're going to be sustaining a little bit less well than you were before on a DPS, but you know, you're still getting the same flat amount of healing, but mobs are doing more damage, so it is a nerf to basically all DPS off healing, or not off healing, all DPS like percent based self healing. It's kind of a nerf. It's kind of staying the same, if anything, but other stuff is getting. I don't know. It's not a huge deal, but that's something they've kind of targeted as not something that is getting this 25% buff while everything else is. Marksmanship is getting a nerf here on Rhythm and Windrunner's Guidance. I don't know if it was just you guys, but in my raid testing, the Marksmanship Hunter was near the top of the meters pretty much reliably, so not surprised to see a little bit happening to them there, although the thing about testing is it's always just kind of, you need to make sure you don't read too much into it, but they're getting nerfed, which does line up with what I was expecting to happen based off of that, with pretty low confidence. They're also nerfing the Survival 2-set and 4-set from Aberrus. Okay. Brewmaster getting 25% on all of their healing, and actually 92% on Vivify. And Celestial Fortune is also getting a compensation buff here, so that, yeah, all the Brewmaster effects. All the Brewmaster effects. I'm trying to think if there's anything here that's going to be a winner or a loser for Brew. If anything, it's just like the bigger health bar and bigger incoming damage. That's probably a downside for Brew relative to other tanks, because that was kind of a strength of Brewmaster, was that it had that bigger health bar, but it kind of needed the external healing to help keep it topped up. So if the external healing is getting nerfed and everybody's kind of getting a bigger health bar, maybe that's bad news for Brew, but I'm not sure. I'm not very confident in that. Chikakun, they're also nerfing. It looks like all non-tank percent health-based things are getting nerfs here to the percentage to keep the flat amount the same. 2-set's been adjusted to put an ICD on Soulfang Infusion. Windwalker, self-healing buffs, and actually bigger buffs to Expel Harm and Vivify. So just like with Druid, it looks like they're actually buffing the flat healing of some of these off-healing. Well, I guess Expel Harm's not off-healing, but Vivify, these off-healing effects to make them a little bit more impactful. Paladin, bunch of changes. Okay, all right. What do we got here? Is today the day that they say Prot Paladin is not going to be overpowered next year? Let us see. Okay, a couple of bugs fixed. Moment of Glory buffed. Again, this is the 25% buff. Bulwark of Order buffed. Light of the Titans buffed. Word of Glory buffed. And Flash of Light buffed. Okay. So all of these are just kind of to be expected changes. And the hammer has yet to fall on the Prot Paladins. They're still looking really, really good. For some reason, the Flash of Light is getting the extra off-healing buff as well. Although that's not something I really expect you'll ever cast on Prot in most cases. But for the most part, don't look at this as like, oh, they're buffing Prot Pally. They need to not be doing that or whatever. This is just, they're kind of blanket doing the same thing to all tanks, right? And yeah, so they have yet to nerf Prot Pally, which I do still expect is coming, but there's only 2 weeks until the patch now, so my Prot Pally is 422 and ready to game if they don't. Ret Pally, we've got also off-healing buffs. Again, bigger here. You see the Word of Glory is a bigger number for Ret than it was for Prot, because it's off-healing for Ret more, whereas for Prot it's more just self-healing. And then they're actually nerfing Light Celerity, but buffing the Flash of Light baseline. Guided Prayer is also getting nerfed. Justicar's Vengeance, again, percent health-based thing, is getting nerfed to stay the same flat. Okay. Shadow Priest, just off-healing stuff, no other changes to the spec. Rogue, Soothing Darkness, that max HP change that we've been seeing a lot of stuff. Earthgrab Totem's getting buffed, cool, a little bit more usable. Cool anti-spiteful tech as well as Earthgrab Totem. I was playing with a Shaman that was using this in some keys last week, and it was pretty nice. Okay, Ellie Shaman, again, the 25% stuff, more on their off-healing, and also they are nerfing the 2-set, and nerfing the 4-set, it looks like. Okay. Enhancement, 5% aura buff on damage and, on damage. Same off-healing changes as well. Improved Maelstrom Weapon is getting nerfed. That's an off-healing proc thing, I think. And Aberrus, the Shattered Crucible, so the 4-set is being nerfed. Okay. But there's an aura buff in here, so probably still good news for enhancement overall. 5% aura buff. And then I guess this is like a 33% nerf to the 4-set, something like that. Okay, Warlock Demon Skin is getting nerfed by a tiny bit on the 2 ranks of it mode. Alright, I suspect that. Warlock is one of these things where they could show me 10 changes that nerf its survivability, and I'm still just not going to believe that that spec is not giga tanky until I actually see them dying in any content. I got tricked a little bit. They did this change in the beta cycle where they just like nerfed Warlock across the board survivability. It's still just the tankiest class I've ever seen, so I suspect they're going to be totally fine. And again, this is just that same percent HP change. Not even a change if you're only a 1-point gamer on Demon Skin as well. I don't know if anybody does that, but that got better. Warrior Titanic Throw, that's AoE heroic throw, is not going to affect CC'd targets. Nice. Ignore Pain buff. Pain and Gain actually getting the same compensation nerf that we've seen to DPS specs. It's actually going to land on the class side of Warrior here, which is going to hit Prot as well. Pain and Gain is not a huge part of the Prot Warrior HPS package, though, and in fact sometimes you don't even talent it, so it's not a huge nerf to the spec. Arms again and Fury also getting these percent health nerfs. Protection, Fueled by Violence, buffed again. They buffed this thing like 4 times, still hasn't been picked yet against the other one that's in the same choice node. And they are also buffing the 2 set by they're doubling the power of the 2 set and also doubling the oh, is this more than doubling the power of the 4 set by quite a bit as well? Okay. Yeah, Prot Warrior actually, I think, putting some power in the set bonus made some sense. I do think this spec, especially in the world of Prot Pally, was kind of looking like maybe the 4th or 5th best tank for the new raid, so it's nice to see them getting buffed, even though obviously we're kind of used to Prot Warrior being OP for the last patch, but honestly right now I think it is like 4th best or something like that right now. Alright, and then finally we have the dungeons and raids changes that have gotten put in here as well. So first off, Brackenhide Hollow. They have made the first boss. Gashtooth is going to sharpen her knife and laugh at her target as they stumble around while blinded by division senses. The first boss in Brackenhide does this awful thing where it like blinds one of you and it like blinds your tank and hexes your healer at the same time, something like that. And it looks like what they're going to do now is they're going to make it so that while that blind is up, Gashtooth isn't going to go and auto other people, which that seems good. That seems like a good change to that. It's still a nasty, nasty ability. It only happens like once every minute or something, though. So it's not the end of the world, but it is still a tough part of this fight. I don't know. I'll have to test it some with this change. Freehold. Many enemies have had their abilities and visuals updated. This seems really good. This is a dungeon that I love Freehold, but it does show its age a little bit, even though it's only like 4 years old. It does show its age a little bit with how some of the abilities are kind of like Freehold is sort of this dungeon where you kind of just have to know how everything works and know which abilities are like AoEs because they don't give you a great indication. So if they're changing that, I think that is great. I think that's fantastic. Skycap and Crag. Azurite Powder Shot is now a 60-yard cone, and its impact damage is reduced. Visual is updated to support this. The dot can also now be dispelled. Now, the thing about Azurite Powder Shot, people used to outrange this. The way you used to play this was you would either line of sight it or outrange it because it did so much damage that it would just one-shot you on any key level. So you would have your healer playing 40 yards or 45 yards away or whatever. It was a 40-yard cone. And you'd have your DPS play behind a plank so that the boss couldn't see them. And your DPS would need to use like a toy to get a model that was small enough to hide behind the plank as well. It was really annoying. So they're changing this, and hopefully they're going to adjust the line of sight thing as well, so that the line of sighting is also not still the right move. But I suspect what you're going to want to do now is spread out such that you've got 5 different. You're spread out in like a 5 players all around the boss in high keys, and that way whichever person he picks, only one debuff is going to go out, and you just dispel them, and hopefully that impact damage is not too bad up front. Great change to this fight, as long as it's enough to make it so that you're not just having like the bad part of this could be if the impact damage isn't reduced enough, and now you have a mechanic that's just the healer now also has to like try and line or like pop defensives or something and try and live it that way. And if the melee DPS are still line of sighting this mechanic, for instance, I think that's a big L. So hopefully that's something that they do not. I mean, if this is low enough damage, then that will fix that. Because you do also still need to be baiting the spits during this phase as well. So that makes it hard to just spread it as a 5-person, like to have 5 people not be in the same cone as each other on this fight. Council of Captains. This is one of the nastiest bosses in here, especially depending on which week you get, if Eudora is active as one of the enemies. So confidence boosting Freehold Brew now increases crit chance by 30%. Raoul's barrel targeting has been updated to target damage dealers, then healers, then tanks as last resort. This used to have character ID based. This used to be speculated to have character ID based targeting, where it would like every character has a character ID that is associated with them that only gets updated when they like name change or transfer servers or when their character is created. And there's some mechanics that just use that. We think like N'Zoth tentacle random shots, for instance, and Raoul's Blackout Barrel was another one of those where there were just some people that just, 9 out of 10 times would get targeted by this thing across 20 Freehold runs and logs. So going back and updating this targeting seems good. Having it prefer damage dealers, then healers, then tanks also seems good. The way this used to work was that the barrel would be thrown at somebody, and then you had like 2 seconds to have somebody else get closer to it, and it would target them instead when it actually landed on the ground. Hopefully they preserve that functionality, because I think that's cool, and having somebody having somebody choose to soak it, I think was cool. But having it never originally target the tanks and healers and always target one of the DPS seems like a good way to make it work as well. And I would be fine if it just always, locked onto them. They've nerfed the duration of Barrel Smash, but buffed the damage. Barrel Smash was really annoying because you had to like max melee range this to avoid getting hit by it, and it was really nasty. That being said, if the damage has been increased to compensate, I'm a little bit worried that it's going to become another one-shot in this dungeon, or if they're going to have deleted some other one-shots and turned this into a one-shot, so hopefully that's not the case. Eudora's Powder Shot now avoids shooting the same player twice within 6 seconds. Phenomenal change. Anytime they do changes like this, I think that's really good, because those sorts of deaths can just feel pretty stupid. Making that change to like Tira and Maruk as well, those sorts of things, really good ideas to do. Grape Shot Leap will no longer jump to a location she's already standing at. This is actually huge, because a lot of the deaths you'd have to Eudora, this is when she has like 4 different corners around the room that she'd jump to and then start shooting cones out. But sometimes she would just stay where she was and then start shooting the cones out. But now you're
Let's explore your future with Udemy. Programming websites, designing logos, presenting your ideas. Learn the skills you need from thousands of online courses. Udemy.
Officials think this could be the largest gang takedown in history in the borough of Queens, and Fox 5 was given exclusive access as it happened. The Queens District Attorney, along with the NYPD Chief of Detectives, announcing the 151-count indictment of 33 alleged gang members. Officials say all 33 defendants are charged with conspiracy to commit murder, and that 18 of those were active trigger pullers. They say the defendants are members of warring gangs trying to establish territorial dominance in Southeast Queens. The gun violence escalated after the high-profile murder of an aspiring high school basketball star 4 years ago.
Well, the gang war was set off by a slashing in April of 2019. The tensions and the violence between the warring factions escalated after the murder of 14-year-old Amir Griffin in October of 2019.
Throughout this investigation, it was determined that members of these gangs intended to commit murder and shoot opposing gang members based solely on their alliances and territorial disputes.
30 guns, you see them there, they were seized in this gang takedown. But before today's sweeping indictment was announced against members of 2 violent street gangs, our own Lisa Evers was embedded with the operation as NYPD detectives rounded up the suspects. And she is here now to bring us this Fox 5 exclusive. Lisa, take it away.
Well, Chris, this long-term investigation began with the murder of a promising teen basketball player. Now, nearly 4 years later, NYPD detectives tell us they have dismantled killed 2 rival gangs who terrorized South Jamaica residents with reckless gunfire, using drill music videos and social media to fuel their beefs. We got an exclusive look at their focused methods, which are very different from the wide net gang sweeps of the past.
Some of the more than 30 suspects were already behind bars in state prison and on Rikers Island for other crimes. They were brought into the 111th precinct to be charged in this major gang conspiracy case. So serious were the safety concerns about the explosive rivalry between the crews known as Money World and their opposition, or Ops, the local trap stars, that police booked them at separate precincts to keep their family members and associates separated when they showed up.
It's pretty much shoot on sight when they see the opposition, and a lot of times innocent people are caught in the middle of it.
Over the last 5 or 6 years, these two gangs terrorized an entire community.
Before sunrise, more than 150 NYPD detectives and supervisors assembled for the takedown of the alleged gang members. Most are between the ages of 18 to 22 and have been arrested before.
This started in the Baisley houses when Amir Griffin got shot and killed.
In October 2019, 14-year-old Amir Griffin, a Cardozo High School student athlete, was the unintended target of a shooting. He was killed on the basketball courts near his home.
Sean, anything you want to say?
18-year-old Sean Brown was arrested for the murder and is part of this case.
That could have been me. It could be my cousins, my nephews. I mean, it's just sad that that had to happen, but today, we have justice for the family.
As detectives investigated, they found a connection to other shootings that were happening in South Jamaica. Some were in broad daylight, one even outside a high school. Police say an escalating rivalry between the Money World and local trap star gangs was responsible.
Once a shooting occurs and there's retaliation for that shooting, it goes back and forth. And it seems like they're never satisfied with the amount of violence they've committed, and they're always trying to get one up on their opposition.
Captain Gillis says the rivalry is over territory, not money or drugs. The hatred heated up over social media taunts and drill music videos where they allegedly bragged about the shootings, the actual locations, and even the calibers of guns used in incidents under investigation.
The drill rap is always a motivator, right? And the drill rap is so specific in that they mention people that have been killed in the past and disrespect those people that have been killed in the past. And it creates a residual effect where it's tit for tat or one for one. Everyone's trying to get one up on the scoreboard. That creates a retaliatory effect on both sides.
Chief, you have a lot of members of the NYPD here. Who is here and involved in this operation?
Yeah, so this operation involves members of the Detective Bureau. In particular, there's 2 different units. It's called Queens South VCS. In addition to that, it's Gun Violence Suppression Unit.
What's happening here right now is you see different groups getting together. They're getting their assignments, and they're also getting their orders from their superiors about how they're going to do this raid, how they're going to take these suspects in.
Detectives from local precincts, as well as warrants, homicide, and narcotics units, provided backup and were involved in the tactical attack meeting to review strategy.
Most of you guys know which your position is going to be on the team. We're going to move in it tactically. We got to take our time when we get into the location, make sure we communicate.
Before we go out, they asked me and my cameraman to take precautions too.
So they're giving us bulletproof vests because many of the suspects that they're going after today have been pre-indicted on very serious gun charges. Some are actually accused of murder.
We head out onto the highway towards South Jamaica.
We're part of an NYPD caravan right now going to the various locations where detectives will be apprehending the suspects in this case.
We arrive at the house. The detectives surround it according to plan, while others do a door knock and go in with a warrant for the suspect.
The detectives were able to find the person that they were looking for. They have taken this suspect in custody. They were in the house. They came out. No shots have been fired.
This suspect, who is wanted for murder, is brought in to be booked. Another team returns with a suspect who wasn't part of the original case. Police say he panicked and threw this gun out the window while the officers were looking for someone else.
Get that my face, my.
The NYPD says this case, like others in recent years, shows that when they do sharply focused investigations and take the most violent offenders off the streets, the surrounding communities experience a drop in gun violence.
These guys did horrific violence out in the streets of South Jamaica. So it's a victory for the community today that these guys are actually all apprehended.
Countless acts, several homicides, non-fatal shootings, incidents of gunfire throughout the community absolutely took its toll, and I'm happy that we were able to deliver a clear message today that won't be tolerated.
Of course, all of the suspects are presumed innocent until proven guilty, but the NYPD says they have more than enough evidence to support the charges
You're always gonna get
so
to
that
see
they
her
will
jumping
not be
through the-
able to shoot anyone again for a very long time.
Yeah, with 389 horsepower. And all-wheel drive.
It's beautiful.
It's a beast
It's electric.
with an edge.
Oh, let's go with that.
I'm not a threat.
Car designers can shape a piece of clay into a piece of art. So why don't they? At Nissan, things are different.
Revere the wells as shrines to Elune, but sorcery is forbidden to all.
So you have heard the first part of the aftermath of the Battle of Mount Hyjal. There is much more to be told, and the task you have begun.
I need to get closer. That's still recharging. I can't pass that yet. It is too far away.
Four meals for $5 each. 4 inflation-busting deals for just $5. The bean and cheese deal.
The crispy chicken deal.
The grilled chicken deal.
And the snack taco deal, just $5 each.
Freshness, variety, value. Del Taco Better Max.
As your network becomes more complex, so does the threat landscape, making it more difficult to shield your organization from cyber attacks. Effective cybersecurity is essential and requires complete visibility across your organization's entire digital infrastructure. That's why we created Omnis Security. In Latin, Omnis means all, and Omnis Security lives up to its name, providing all the visibility you need to protect your organization from cyber threats. For over 30 years, NetScout has provided organizations with broad and deep visibility into their ever-evolving network infrastructure. We call this.
On January 19th, 2023, an officer was on patrol when he discovered a stolen white Ford Fusion in Glendale, Wisconsin. As he began to follow it, he observed 4 occupants in the vehicle. He advised his sergeant nearby to have stop sticks set in case the stolen vehicle begins fleeing. When a traffic stop was initiated, the driver refused to pull over and started fleeing.
Got him, don't go!
You hit my sticks! Positive sticks on the other car, too. 50's right behind you. This looks like he's losing it there. Roads are a little wet, there's no traffic out here. Activity northbound on Titonia. We're going to be passing Thurston. There's going to be medium traffic at Flores.
The suspect vehicle eventually drove onto the curb to get through traffic and sideswiped another vehicle in the process.
Looks like he's continuing northbound.
Due to the officer's squad car hitting the stop sticks from before, he advised he would remain with the struck vehicle.
Then for northbound Titonia. We'll be approaching Mill here in a second. The back left tire is left. Occupied 2 or 3 times. It's going to be occupied 4 times. Coming up to a green light at Mill, north on Titonia. There's going to be traffic there. He's going to be passing them on the right. Continuing northbound on Titonia past Mill. Speeds are 70. Traffic is light, roads are a little wet.
Police continued to pursue the suspect vehicle as speeds exceeded 87 miles per hour in a posted 35 mile per hour zone.
Continuing northbound, about 6900 left. Looks like there's a red light at Good Hope where there's medium traffic. He is slowing down for the red. Continuing northbound on Titonia. Through a green light at Titonia and Good Hope northbound. Speeds at 45. Occupied 4 times. Continuing northbound, passing Clinton on Titonia. Speeds are 55. Looks like we're slowing down. Speeds are 50. Passing Hemlock northbound Titonia.
712 50, if I'm getting out call it. We're going to be westbound Portage. Westbound Portage. They're in the gas station parking lot. Wrong way, Titonia, wrong way. Terminate. You can re-engage. They went, now they went west on Titonia. They ran it themselves.
Coming up to 43rd Calumet, looks like we're going southbound. They're going to be going southbound in the north, but I'm terminating. They're going over a hill. Incoming traffic. Alright. They are out of traffic. They're in the side road going southbound. 12 continue.
We'll just follow them at this point, turn everything off. They're in that Good Hope and Titonia.
Eventually, the vehicle came to a stop and all 4 occupants exited, running for their lives. The driver, later identified as 20-year-old Cleashawn Dotson, immediately jumped over a 6-foot fence, continuing through the yards.
Driver, red, sweatshirt. Got 3 going south, going north. 15 got him. Location. Looks like they're balls 40 and 6. They're going east. I got one clear.
4223 Clinton. I need a perimeter. I got the driver coming back out to Clinton. 42nd. Get out of the bus! Police! Show me your heads! Show me your fucking heads! Show me your heads! Get on the ground! Get on the fucking ground! Get on the ground! Get on the ground! Get on the ground! Face down! Put your hands behind your back! Put your hands behind your back!
Hey, RVers! Any way you explore, explore protected. With Progressive, a leader in RV insurance. They make it easy to quote, and the process takes as little as 4 minutes. Get a quote now. Insure your passion.
There was a time when I thought that this was it, you know, family, everything. But if you ain't searching, you're lost.
This will come to no good.
Betty Gore was your friend. The 3 other male occupants were soon apprehended and were ages 17 and 16.
Get on the ground! On the ground! Kneel down! Do it now! Kneel down, you're getting tased. I'm not playing with them. Kneel down. You're under arrest. Kneel down. Kneel down. Wait, kneel down.
I'm not going to resist you. You can arrest me, bro.
I can't just listen.
All right, I said you can arrest me, bro. I'm not resisting.
All right, here we go. I got one, T.
Stay down. Any weapons on you?
So I got asked for back.
Stay down. Just sit like that. Oh, the kid's dead.
They're still on the yard. They're about 40 to 20 pounds.
You injured at all?
You go with him. I'm going back to the car.
Good. You injured at all? What do you got? Talk to me.
While searching Cleashon, police located a plastic bag that contained several colorful and differently shaped pills. It was later tested and resulted positive for ecstasy, weighing a total of 14 grams.
Okay. Do me a favor. Try to breathe this. Okay. Just keep breathing for me, then we'll figure that out, okay?
Can you take my hood off for me?
Sure.
No, you keep my hat on. So, can you do me a favor?
I got you.
Can you please call my mom?
I'll call her. You're under arrest. Okay. What's your first name? Is it Cleveland?
Cleashon.
Cleashon?
Yeah.
Cleashon, stand up for me.
Can you help me?
I can help you. Put your feet into the ground.
Can you help me, please? I'll hold that for you.
I got it. Breathing okay? I'm saying it's getting better though, right?
No, I got strong asthma.
Shit, I do too, man. My asthma's fucking with me too, but keep breathing for me, okay? You're doing good. You good?
Hold on, can you stay right here for a minute?
Yeah. I don't want you to fall, okay?
I'll be
okay. We're just gonna get you so I can sit you down in that squad right there.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Alan Thrall, and I'm going to show you that you can get a good workout, even if you train at a meme gym. Here I am, not at Untamed Strength Gym. I am at the infamous Planet Fitness. Don't ask me how I got here. I've done 2 strongman competitions this year. In January, I did the LA Fit Expo, and I just finished with California's Strongest Man 2023. I do not plan to do any more competitions for the rest of the year. There were a couple of big competitions that I was looking at, but the scheduling, the dates do not work with my scheduling. So even if I wanted to do those competitions, I simply cannot. So the goal is to take the rest of this year to actually try and build some muscle. Conveniently, this has come at the same time, or coincidentally, this has come at the same time that I've been really enjoying Natural Hypertrophy's YouTube videos. He's been making videos for a long time, but I only recently started watching them more and more. And I'm excited to take a lot of the stuff he talks about on his YouTube channel and implement it into my own training. Specifically, or more recently, his last 2 videos, where he critiques other lifters, programs, physique, training ideas, and methodology. And I'm looking forward to putting some of that stuff into my own training. If I was to take, I say the rest of this year, but even 1 year of focusing on hypertrophy alone is really not that much when we look at the big picture, or we think of how long it takes to build a substantial amount of muscle mass. I think it's funny when powerlifting programs or strongman programs, we put in these hypertrophy blocks, which is like 4 weeks long, maybe 6 weeks long, maybe 8 weeks. And who are we kidding? We're not actually putting on any noticeable muscle mass in that short time period. We might, diet hard and lose some body fat and look more muscular at the end of that. You might gain a couple of grams of muscle if we look at it in a laboratory setting under a microscope. But again, you're not putting on slabs of muscle in 4 to 6 weeks. It takes a long time. So I'm looking forward to implementing a lot of the stuff that Natural Hypertrophy is talking about on this channel into my own training. So here we have front squats on a Smith machine. So what I've been doing since California Strongest Man is full body days, upper body and lower body each day. And each day we'll kind of have a little more emphasis on upper body or lower body. This workout in particular was kind of split in half, upper and lower. But I'm doing 5 sets of 5 reps on Smith machine squats. You're weak, Alan. You're soft. Your upper body's nothing. You're too skinny. And then I moved on to behind the neck presses. I did this from a kneeling position because it feels more like a standing overhead press. The main reason was I didn't want to drag a bench over there and do it seated. So if you're limited, also if you're doing overhead press in a basement or your ceiling does not allow you to do standing overhead press, doing kneeling works just as well. 5 sets of 5 for these again, and I superset it with weighted pull-ups. These pull-ups were not very heavy because the bar is very slick. So this whole workout was very taxing on my grip. So as an added forearm day, if you will. This specific superset you're looking at, the behind the neck presses and the weighted pull-ups, was inspired by, or really copied by, Eder Soviak. Please rate my French. The Natural Hypertrophy talks about in his last video. And these supersets I was doing front squats with hanging leg raises are what Natural Hypertrophy likes to call free volume. It's also a great way to condense your workout and save some time. We call these grease ball pull-ups. So rather than sitting around on my phone for 5 minutes in between sets, I can superset movements that don't really impact each other, meaning the secondary movement is not taking a lot away from the primary movement, and vice versa. So here I did a banded pull-up for one of my sets because the Planet Fitness worker was just way too efficient and he was doing his job too well. He had snatched up my dumbbell that I left there, so I found this band and did some weighted pull-ups. Some banded pull-ups. Same concept as a weighted pull-up. Where's John Meade? They're playing Eminem. Sounds like Kids Bop version of Eminem. Alan is lifting his weights, wearing extremely short shorts and drinking out of a half-gallon canteen. What a hunk. My next superset was split squats, which I really enjoyed doing in a Smith machine because I could place my feet in the right position and then go from there. I didn't have to unrack the bar and walk back and kind of fiddle around with my foot placement. For the front squats, I did notice that unracking the bar, my feet maybe each set were a little too far forward, a little too far back. The bar couldn't move freely, obviously, so that was kind of a challenge. Nothing that I focused too much on, but just something that I definitely noticed. The split squats were supersetted with dumbbell Romanian deadlifts. Back to forearm day or grip day. The limiting factor here was my grip. I could only do so many of these before I felt like the dumbbells were going to fall out of my hands. So if I really wanted to take my hamstrings closer to failure, I would have used lifting straps. Not a big deal. I guess I'm just getting my forearms more and more jacked by doing these. You'll notice when I do these Romanian deadlifts, I'm not trying to stick my butt out and stick my chest out. I'm not trying to really stretch the hamstrings. I kind of think of this more as a back workout. I'm trying to round my back over a little bit more than I normally would with a traditional deadlift. I'm trying to build some resiliency in that round back position because in strongman, you tend to pick things up in a precarious position. Finishing off, I did 3 rounds, a giant set. Push-ups to near max. I would say each set of the 3 sets was RPE 7 to probably 10. And then I supersetted that with bent over dumbbell rows, which as you'll see is a lot of hamstrings and lower back, so it is a back movement. But the row is also some biceps, definitely a lot of grip. My grip was shot at this point, but my mid and lower lats, my mid back and lower lats are actually pretty sore a day later. This kind of simulates a T-bar row, but with a pair of dumbbells. This was pretty cool. I got asked a few questions about leg training. I think people were just checking out my legs. But they had asked what top 3 leg exercises were, and then how to do a Romanian deadlift. They feel like it's they just feel in their back. How do they get more hamstring engagement? And then here I'm talking about squat depth. So mainly telling them to take a comfortable stance that allows them to go through a normal range of motion, not too narrow, not too wide. So it was really cool to be asked those questions in just a random commercial gym. That's it. Thanks for watching, and always remember, tread on time.
Today we're here to honor the legacy. Symbols are nothing without the women and men that give them meaning. We need new heroes.
The Falcon and the Winter Soldier is relevant and gripping.
Talk to me. Watch your back.